Craft here, your host for Viva la Evolution, produced by Recovery and Resilience Solutions, which is a branch of Crestwood Behavioral Health. And today we have a really fun guest coming today, Shannon McCleary Hooper from Riverside County. And I've known Shannon for maybe, at least 20 years. And when we first started doing peer training, Riverside County was one of our first places we had the opportunity and privilege to do some of our work with. So I want to give you just a heads up of things to pay attention to with Shannon. Pay attention to the career ladder, because I know a lot of places that hire peers have not thought to develop a peer ladder. And she has a very multi-step career ladder that sounds wonderful. So heads up on that. Another thing is for you who are maybe just starting, Shannon started with 17 peers in Riverside County. This was probably, I might be wrong, but I'm going to say 15 years ago, about 15 years ago. And do you know how many peers she has just as county employees today? 367 peers. And that doesn't count all the peers that work in contract agencies or peer-operated programs. These are just county employees. So we could easily add probably, I don't know, another 150 to that in Riverside County alone. So Riverside County was an early starter, and they got lucky to get some good peer leaders right from the get-go, and it really shows in where they are now. Another thing I'd like you to pay attention to is something, Shannon's calling it an all-staff RAP group. I don't think it's really a RAP group. I think it's something kind of like that, but it gives other staff a first-hand experience of what it's like to write your own treatment plan. I know some of you don't want me to say it that way, but that's the way I have to say it for now. So pay attention to that. Another thing that's really impressive is something she calls senior peers. And these are peers that, well, you'll hear it for yourself, that support peers in their work. They often build a bridge between other staff and peers. Remember, all of Shannon's peers are interlaced in other programs. So they work right alongside case managers and counselors and doctors and nurses and that sort of thing. So there's plenty of room for issues to arise. But she's managed to dodge most of them by setting things up right. But when they do, she has these senior peers that step in. So heads up on that, because I think that's going to be something you're going to want to emulate. Okay, I think that's all I wanted to tell you there. Now, something else I want to tell you is, remember I've been telling you about this leadership paper? I don't know if you've read it or not yet. People don't read anymore, I find. It's too bad. Anyway, when you got on to this site, you were in Recovery Resilience Solutions webpage, and you pressed on training and products or something like that. And then you scroll down a little bit, and there's a bunch of green boxes. So you went to the most recent green box, and in that green box, it has the link for this, but it also says read more. And if you click on that, that's where you get this leadership paper. And I'm being told it's really good. So we'll see if you like it or not. But in it, there is a graph. It'd be good if you read it before we see Shannon, but you don't have to. It's just at the end, I'd like to go through the graph and point out the strengths that Shannon emulates as a leader. So if you read it beforehand, it'll make more sense to you. But if you don't, that's okay. All right, enough babbling from me. Let's get on to Miss Shannon and be impressed by everything that she's doing and has done. Here we go. Shannon, I'm so excited to have you join us today. been looking forward to this, and you have done so many amazing things um, that I just want everyone to know about it. But let's start, if it's okay with you, let's start with you just telling a little bit about your recovery story,
Okay.
because we know you weren't always here, as I was not always here either.
No, it's funny. I came to work for the county of Riverside while I was working as a school teacher in a middle school, and I was very dissatisfied with the work I was doing there, and I was terribly, deeply depressed. And my sister-in-law said, why don't you push some paper around for a while with the county, because she worked for the county as a district attorney, and said, why don't you push some paper around and figure out what you want to be when you grow up? And and I was like, okay. So I go to the county website, and back in those days, the website had like flyers on it. It wasn't like interactive where you would apply for a job online, but it would like give you a description of what the job is, and it described the peer support job, and it had sort of a list of things. Are you a person who has lived experience with addiction recovery, or mental health recovery, or domestic violence, or alcoholism in your family, blah blah blah. And I'm like checking off every single box on the on the flyer. And I was thinking, gosh, this would be really cool. I could give back to people in a way that I never thought I could. And so I got the job at a huge pay cut and thought, I'm going to start over. I'm going to try to do this. And then they sent me to peer employment training. Totally life changing. Like
Uh,
everything changed. Like I had never told anybody my personal lived experience story.
mm,
When I interviewed for my job as a peer support specialist, they asked me, what makes you uniquely qualified to help another person through their recovery journey? And I was like, oh, well, I lived with an alcoholic my whole life. And, I talked about my dad's problems and my mom's mental health challenges and experiences with that sort of thing. Child divorce and trauma and, domestic violence and all this other stuff. But I didn't tell them about my mental health stuff that had been
oh,
going on
right.
since I
Okay.
was really little. Because the first time, and I didn't figure this out until I was in my 20s, but I actually started having suicidal ideation at the age of 9. I remember sitting in my beanbag chair in
Mm,
my bedroom, listening to music and trying to figure out how I could die without getting my siblings in trouble, without making a mess, without, I'm a 9-year-old thinking about 9-year-old things.
mhm,
And then when I was in college, I cracked up in college, ended up in the student health center with what they called severe exhaustion and depression. I wasn't given medication and I wasn't given therapy. I was just sent home and told to rest, which is what they did in the 80s. So, so I come by all of this very naturally, but my recovery had been something that I'd been sort of working on. My whole life had been in therapy since I was in my mid 20s, trying to sort it out. And then I went to peer employment training and it just turned a corner.
mm,
My my mental health recovery turned this huge corner, and I was like, I'm in. I drank the Kool-Aid. I get this. I need to understand that the stuff that I've been through, the things that I understand about my own mental health and wellness are things I can, instead of baggage that I'm dragging around with me, they're these wonderful, beautiful gifts that I can unwrap for somebody else and show them, look at how beautiful this could be,
yeah.
and I didn't know that until I met my facilitators, Maria and Tiffany, way back in the day. And then I took advanced peer practices, and uh, it's all just life changing for me. And I will tell you that the principles of creating a recovery environment in your life and a recovery environment around yourself and with the people that you're with, no matter where you are, whether you're at work or at home, it transcends all things to me. It creates a space where hope exists all the time. And that's it. I've been in recovery for over 30 years, but behavioral health recovery for over 30 years, but over the last 16, 17 years, it's been on steroids. And
Uh,
it's all I really think about. It's
yeah.
really how I live my life. And
You know what I hear you saying, I think, is you had all these experiences and you didn't realize they were gifts.
mm-mm, I
And
didn't.
and you
Not in,
didn't
not,
realize that they were equipping you to serve others in a significant way and in a
yeah.
way that gave you meaning and purpose in your life. And that
Oh,
your
totally.
training just shifted the way you saw everything. And you've been really busy ever since.
Yeah, I'm pretty motivated. So yeah,
Yeah.
I get to work I when I entered the peer support world, became a peer support specialist. It's this little clinic in the desert region of Riverside County in Banning. If you're in
Oh
Banning,
my
it's on
gosh.
the
Yeah.
Palm
I've been to
Springs. You
Banning.
blink, you'll miss it. Yeah. I was working at that clinic, and when we showed up, it's 2007, 2008, and peer support was kind of new to the county system. And so there were no instructions for the supervisors, no training for the supervisors, no training outside of your peer employment training that you took that would prepare you for being with other people in a clinic environment, especially when you're dealing in public behavioral health where folks are really struggling. That we're dealing with the folks that are really, really not doing well, like me at my very worst, and or even worse than that, which is kind of hard to think about.
Yeah.
And so I think the moment I went to work for them, I started thinking in terms of educating, being a better educator.
Mhm.
And I think I come by that naturally. And so I just started writing. I started writing these little training modules to share at our staff meetings. And in those days, there was only 17, 18 of us in the system when I started. And then like a year after I was working as a peer, I was promoted to the very first senior peer positions. There was 3 senior peer positions that they opened in the county, and I got one of them. And so we could start that training process and create sort of a career ladder for peers that included not just our volunteer program, which we'd had all along kind of informally, but to formalize our volunteer program, to formalize an internship program for peers, and then create a ladder from trainee to journey level to senior peer, and then to peer manager, which we already had at the time, but to solidify that as a career ladder for peers. And it's been around since 2010, I want to
Hmm.
say. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you started, when you took the peer training, um, right after that, there were maybe 17 peers that got hired in Riverside County.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I remember you had like several hundred peers at one point.
Well, right now we have 367 peer support specialists that work in Riverside County directly for the county public behavioral health system.
Hmm.
That does not include our county contractors, our SAPT, our substance abuse prevention and treatment providers, our prevention and early intervention providers. Those providers are not included in that number. Those are folks that directly are employed by our agency.
Mm-hmm.
And
Wow.
our team here supports them all.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing. I think it would be really inspiring for you to just what we could get back to the peers and what they do and so forth. But if you were to just share a little bit about all the different programs that you've created over the years. I know there's many, many.
Yeah, well, and it's funny, I don't create things by myself. I work with a team of wonderful, amazing peer support specialists. We honor the opinions and the thoughts of other people, and I have the unique position to be able to support that process and to promote it and to allow that to grow. And so I don't create programs, our teams create programs, and we've been very successful. And I want to say we have, gosh, we've had training programs for, we did an all staff wrap group.
Huh,
So it
huh,
started with supervisors and administrators. So we invited managers and administrators and supervisors to come and do a wrap. And we didn't frame it around mental health. We framed it around, what are you challenged with that stops your life and
huh.
makes you have to
Yeah.
turn around and recover? What does that mean? What does it mean to you? And
Mm.
because everybody's been through divorce, bankruptcy, lost
Yeah.
a house, lost a loved one, grief, whatever. So we framed it around this sort of general thing. And you wouldn't believe the beautiful things that came out of that rap
Huh,
class.
huh.
And these managers that finally bought into the purpose of, and supervisors that bought into the purpose of peer support. Like, this is our
Yeah.
whole role. This is what we're trying to do for the people that we serve. And you're going to be part of this too. So
What
there
a
was that.
brilliant idea to give them a firsthand experience.
Yeah. Well, and it was
Um,
giving them buy-in so they would let us start these groups at the community
yes,
level. Two of them were
I mean,
pushing
there's
back.
several brilliant things going on there, but
Yeah.
to give them a firsthand experience so they could buy in.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, gosh, I don't even, I have 17, 16 years of this stuff that we've been doing. We did the, um, uh, Recovery Coach of the Year awards, and we've done, I don't even know where to begin.
Well, something,
Help me.
explain to us this, something happened a few years ago where you became part of a university. Is that
Mm,
right?
I don't know. The university health system is our public behavioral health system, is the Riverside University Health System Behavioral Health. So we do work with universities in the area. We have peers that work with MFT students, and they go and they talk to their classes about peer support and the value of lived experience, and how now this year's actual presentation was really focused on, yeah, it's a certified, California is now certifying peers. They have to go through a licensure process and certification process and all that stuff. And we've been doing that. That's been going on for 15 years.
Yeah.
And that is Cal Baptist University, Riverside City College, the UCR, University of California, Riverside, Loma Linda University. Oh gosh, am I missing some? San Jacinto. We've done all of the area schools. So
Hmm.
that is, yeah, we do that. We've been doing that for a long time.
Yeah, I thought you had. I thought
Yeah.
that was a pretty amazing idea too when you started doing that.
Well, it was funny. Our workforce education and training team was the one who brought it to us. They said, hey, we have this idea. We want to be able to bring, this piece of the education that's missing from the MFT students, because they get here and they start working as clinicians and they don't have any idea what a peer is and why they're there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so we send leadership peers to go and have those conversations and provide resources about peer support learning to those
Hmm.
students. So
Hmm.
that's been very successful and
Yeah.
consistent, something we do pretty much every year.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. What would you say has been some of the biggest challenges to all the things you've accomplished?
Oh, I want to say some of the biggest challenges are from a lack of understanding about who I am.
Mhm.
And I want to say this because the history of peer support in the county of Riverside has not been perfect, right? Years ago, when I was a line staff peer and a senior peer, the leadership was focused in a different way of advocacy. There was the angry advocacy of you need to listen to us, we're here, we're peer, get over it, that kind of thing, right? And that kind of approach was counter to my internal belief system. My belief system is, when I learned about peer support, we're supposed to meet people right where they are, right? No matter who they are, whether they're clinicians or they're doctors, they're scientists, their mothers, their fathers, their brothers, their sisters. I'm going to meet you right where you are.
Yeah.
And I want to learn. I want to be gently curious about what it is that you do. So
Yeah.
you'll get more gently curious about what I do. And that has been a philosophical difference between myself and my predecessor, which is, that's 12 years ago, 13 years ago.
Mhm.
But that was a challenge that I had to kind of overcome.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was sort of guilt by association. Oh, we don't want to know Shannon, she's us against them, her peer
Yeah.
support, it's them against us. And I was like, no, no, no. And from the very first meeting I had with the leadership staff, I sat around the table, I go, okay, I'm going to just talk about the elephant in the room right now. I'm just going to say, I believe that we need to meet each other right where we are. I am open to anyone's ideas and thoughts. I will tell you what my position is. I will tell you what my belief system is, and philosophically where I think peer support could go.
Mhm.
But I need to know where you stand and what you need to be supported, because I'm here to support the system.
Mhm.
I'm here to support the person that we're serving. I'm here to support you as a staff member, because my whole entire role is about support. It's not about fighting against you or
Mhm.
getting my needs met. right? I could do that. I could get all my needs met, but where does that leave me? I need to be of service. I am a public servant,
Yeah.
and seeing myself as a public servant and role modeling that for a public servant system is very important. And so I think I was able to overcome that challenge, but that was the deepest, hardest piece of having the role that I have.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I,
it was
you know,
really
I've,
difficult and painful. It was painful.
yeah. Oh, I know. I know other people that have struggled with that. And where they get diminished because they aren't playing that hardcore us against them role. But I just agree with you. It's just counterproductive.
Well, it meant something back in the day. I do know that. My mom
Yeah,
was part of
yeah.
that early advocacy in the 70s. My mom was very, very active in that sort of stuff. And it took anger to get people to change. I get that and I embrace it. And I say, hey, yeah, but this is not the time for that.
Yeah.
People are turning corners. Cultures are shifting. Paradigm has completely shifted. If you look at the state of California's CalAIM initiatives, it is completely shifted about we're going to care for the human. We're going to let the human come to us and we're going to do what we can for them and take away the barriers that are getting in the way.
Yeah.
And yet some of them still totally exist, but it's being written in that we're going to address them. And to me, that's very, very exciting.
Very hopeful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. What about HR kinds of things? I mean, we both totally believe in a peer workforce.
Oh, yeah.
And would do anything possible to support people in that role. But we do have problems from time to time of an HR nature. Sometimes it's because peers haven't had the right training to begin with. Often I find peers aren't supervised well.
Oh, yeah, that happens a lot.
Yeah, I mean, other people aren't either. Clinicians aren't. And by supervised, I don't mean told what to do. I mean
supported,
guided and supported,
guided. Yeah.
Given ideas. So often it's a supervision failure that the peer or whoever it is, the person that get blamed for, but there wasn't someone there to give them the guidance and support and integration needed to move forward. Has that been an issue with you folks?
Yeah, early on it was difficult. I think the career letter really helped us because I wrote a policy. I partnered with a couple of the other managers that we had a partner manager and a family advocate manager. We partnered and wrote a policy around peer support, recruitment, training, and promotion of the peer support role, right? So we wrote this policy, a behavioral health policy, and it's been standing today. And actually it's being updated right now because of the certification process. It's changing, but the policy really helped because it supported the senior peer support role that partners with the supervisor, because senior peer support specialists do not have punity with another employee. They don't have any HR things that they do with the employee. They're there to support the employee, but they're also there they're supposed to be Switzerland. They stand between the supervisor and the peer and help bring them together so they're talking, right? Or that they're communicating, right?
Great idea.
And if the supervisor's having challenges with the peer employee, the senior goes to the supervisor and says, hey, how can I support you to help develop this person's skills?
That's
and
a great idea.
Inform them what that peer's role actually is. This is their code of ethics. These are the things that they need to do. This is their duty statement. So let's make sure that aligns with what you're asking them to do, because if they're pushing back about using coercion or something else, it's because of their fundamental role in the clinic. And so that has really helped us in terms of that stuff. And it lessens the amount of interactions that the peers are actually having with HR. Now, we have a very strong management system, peer management system. We have a parent partner, a family advocate, and a consumer peer-led management system that works in our system. I'm the deputy director, but these three are the managers of these three different programs. And, philosophically, integrity, personal responsibility, these are things, recovery practices, but that's part of your role in a job. So how do you tie these recovery concepts to your job? And, you
Mhm.
know, where is it that we can show you that this is not a recovery practice if you're doing A, B, and C?
Mhm.
You're being reactive. Okay. Why are you not being contemplative and responsive? Think
Yeah.
about it instead of doing knee-jerk responses or reactions, as opposed to, you know, the responsive, you know, being gently curious, using your peer support skills to get yourself and your needs met with your supervisors. I also think that you know, there is a sense of what a person presents to you in an interview and how they can actually perform the job on the job, right?
Mhm.
We work
Mhm.
in a public behavioral health system. There are certain aspects of the job you got to do, you have to do.
Mhm.
And there are things that we don't get a choice around. We try to give choice as much as possible. How do you want to handle it? You know, how do you want to proceed? Those are things that we do, and we coach that. And we actually have the seniors help the supervisors to have those conversations and to grow.
Yeah.
Um, that there is a sense, though, when you get somebody on the job, sometimes their wellness is not as secure as it really needs to be if you're going to be a role model for public behavioral health.
Mhm. Mhm.
You have to be able to walk the walk. You have to be able to role model what recovery looks like for you, even if you're having a bad day, saying, I'm kind of having a bad day, but let's get through this together. And then if you're having a really, really bad day, you can't bring that to work because you
Yeah.
can't give away what you don't have, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the coaching that the seniors provide to line staff peers is that whole on the job constant, like, what you can't give away what you don't have. These are the things that you can utilize to, you know, help yourself. There's employee assistance services there. You know, you can put formal support in place. There's FMLA if you need to take extra time off, but you got to get with your doctor because that's your personal responsibility. My recovery is my responsibility.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm never gonna, I tell staff, I never am gonna tell you about an option or a benefit that I wouldn't be willing to use myself.
Mhm. Yeah.
You know, and so those challenges aren't as often, or they're fewer and farther between than they used to be.
You know, I've noticed that too.
Mhm.
I think what it is it has to do with building a culture
Mhm.
of
Yeah.
expectation and responsibility, and and also having like a group, a peer group to be with, helps hold all that together,
Yeah.
hold the expectations together. And early on, we didn't have enough of that foundation to count on that. So we had a more fallout than I think we do now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things I do want to say, you know, way back in the day, my predecessor was really good at was that bringing the fellowship together of the peers, having the
Mhm.
fellowship, which is, to me, I think it's missing today because of virtual stuff.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
don't want us to, because there's 367 of us. Do you want to put us all in one room? Probably not. But I would love that. I miss that.
Yeah.
I miss being with the peers, and I was with them every month, you know, for years and years. And then
Mhm.
the pandemic hit, and we lost that, and I miss that. And that was something that was instilled by my predecessor, who was really really good at that. And
Yeah.
one of the greatest strengths and things that I took from my development as a peer.
Well, you know, you've got enough people, you could have your own little conference.
And you know, we've been talking about that. We've actually been talking about that
Huh.
because I think we could
Huh.
do it well. And we have a convention center here in Riverside that's all fancy now. And we thought about it. It's just money. It costs
Yeah.
money.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We'll see. I'd love to do it.
Well, I've just admired your work for so long, and
Oh, it goes
um,
both ways, girl. Let me tell you, you and Jean and Chris, like, you guys say, just absolutely changed my life. So
um,
I owe
well,
it all to you.
thank you for that, Shannon. You really took it and ran with it. Um, so thank you so much for all the brilliance you've shared with us. And I'm just wondering, are there other things that you'd like to say or share that haven't come up yet?
I do want to say this. I'm one thing I'm not kind of, I'm very proud of, very proud of the peer team in Riverside County. We were part of an innovations project, the Help at Hand project, which is a, you know, 15 county collaborative to address behavioral health technology, interventions through technology.
Oh, huh.
And it was a 5-year project. It's sunsetting in February, but the peers came up with the very first live peer chat. And anywhere. It doesn't exist anywhere. When we were doing all the research, we found that there were peer chat bots, AI, that would answer people. But we thought, the peers could answer chats live for people who don't want to be seen or don't want to be heard on the phone.
Yeah.
And it's been up and running for 4 years now. It was rapidly deployed during the pandemic. Cal Hope actually duplicated it. So if you see the ads on Cal Hope about the live chat that they have, that's our model. Cool. And we won the CSAC award in 2020.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
Yeah, the challenge award for Take My Hand live peer chat. And we didn't name it. We had inspired our web developer so much that he was working after hours to set this sucker up for us, to give us a prototype. And he named it himself. He was so excited about it. So I'm really deeply proud of this team and the innovation and the thought that goes into this. And we've done so many things around technology. We're now using peers in with A4I, which is app for independence for people with auditory hallucinations. Help monitor themselves. And we actually have their web developers at A4I change their language to recovery language on their website and in their interface, which is really exciting. So I just want to say that there is so much that could be done with the use of peer support specialists. We're now growing into the medical center. The medical center is going to have its own peer support program that we're going to train. We're going to train medical staff, doctors, nurses, respiratory therapists, social workers, whoever's working at the medical center, who's going to provide peer support to their own peers. So nurses with nurses, doctors with doctors.
Oh, what a great idea.
And that's been a dream of mine for many years. And here we are.
Yeah.
We'll probably start training the first quarter of next year. So that's
I remember you talking about this 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And bridging that gulf.
Yeah. I'm really excited about that. So we got a lot going on here. Still
going along. You do, and you have for a long time. Let me ask you one more question. This is a question I've been asking myself, and that is, what is my learning edge right now? What do I need to learn more or feel more? Or by learn, I don't mean in my head. I mean, what knowledge or wisdom do I need to gain to make my best contribution from here on out? And for me, I keep hearing, you need to go deeper. You need to not come from your head. You need to really go down to a place of love and energy that's beyond just things that happen in our heads. So that's kind of my learning edge right now. What would you say? This might not be on the top of your tip of your tongue. So, but whatever you might have for this, what comes up?
I really, actually, you're resonating with me a lot in this question, because it's something I've been contemplating for a while, and it's getting connected with what makes me need to connect with the people that I'm working with. So like, we lose sight of ourselves when we work in management. We work in, we have these roles where, we're making decisions and people are looking to us to make decisions, and you get a little bit more esoteric in the way you approach things, right? I'm a quirky theater person. I went to school to be an actor. I performed for, 35, 40 years as a musical theater performer. And I actually just recently brought in a picture from me in a show, and I put it in my office to remind myself of who I am. Now, I have a picture of my family because, I'm a mom and a wife, and I'm very happy with my family. And they sit in front of me, and I do everything just for them, right? That's that they're the purpose, that my meaning and purpose. But at the same time, staying connected with who I am, I think creates and I think this goes for everybody, creates a richness in your relationships when you're developing programs, when you're connecting to make change. I think that if we are better at being genuine and authentic about
Mhm.
who we are,
Mhm.
it creates spaces for vulnerability and for creativity. And I think that that's missing sometimes for me personally.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's something that sort of sits with me and I think about.
So I'm hearing you say your learning edge is to pull forward more creativity, more new ideas, more new ways. In other words, not just recycling old ideas, but pulling forth a whole new set of wisdom and then connecting it. And I just so agree with that connecting thing. I think relationships are probably the only thing that really makes our stuff work, in spite of all of our training and whatever we have. Um, so I love what you're saying about connecting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, girl. Well, we'll just keep learning together and
Yeah, that's
see where we
right.
go with this. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for spending a little time with us. And
No, thank you.
uh,
Thanks for having me. I feel
I
so
know
honored to
the
be
audience of,
part of your podcast. And you ask me back anytime. I'm
okay, we'll
to
do.
participate.
We'll do. Okay, well, there you have it. Miss Shannon. I, I, I know you loved that. I learn more every time I talk to Shannon, so I'm sure you did too. So let's look at this leadership paper. Let's try this out. We're going to do this on the next few leaders. Go to page, I don't know what your page is. Mine is page 3. When you get to this graph, like that. So let's just go through it. So the first one is commitment to be present. Well, you got a lot of presence from Shannon. Focused on recovery outcomes, no problem there. A spirit to inspire. Shannon's energy is amazing, isn't it? Um, she she can't help but be inspiring with that energy. Let's see. Strength to be vulnerable. We saw some vulnerability there. Agile. She's had to be very agile to get as far along as she has with these programs, because I've worked in counties before, and there's a lot of rules that come up, and a lot of people are committed to those rules, even though they don't, well, they don't work, some of them. But Shannon's agility shows in how much she's been able to accomplish. So next we have transparent. We saw some transparency there with Shannon. Resolve not to give up. Shannon's not one to do that. She's got that one down. Resilient, a good bounce back from her. Loving kindness, guts, no problem there. Yep, that's our last one. Now, if you want to keep reading, there's some other bullets in here that are guiding lights. And I won't take the time to go through that right now, but I think you'll find them helpful. So, okay, that's all for now. Okay, thanks for being with us, and I just love sharing these wonderful people with you. And I've got a nice lineup coming all through the fall, so stay tuned. We've got a lot of really great people to learn from. Take care, my friends, and I'll see you next week.